Hi, I'm Pin from Rappler. You're watching Rappler Talk. Our guest today is Drama del Rosario. He is a filmmaker from Manila. Now he's based in LA, and recently his documentary In This Family won the jury prize at the PBS Short Film Festival this year. So if you haven't seen In This Family yet, I suggest you do. You can pause this video, or if you're watching the live stream, you can leave the live stream and come back later to watch the interview, or you can watch this interview and then watch this film. I guarantee you, sobrang sulit ng 12 minutes of your life to watch In This Family. Anyway, for Rappler Talk, I talked to Drama about the journey of making In This Family, his own journey, and why representation and making space matters in filmmaking. Hi, Drama.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us.
For sure.
Okay, so congrats. First of all, congratulations. If
Thank
you don't
you.
know why I'm congratulating him, there's a link down below probably about why. So where were you when you found out that your film had won the jury prize?
I had literally just woken up, and I was making coffee in the morning, thinking of what to eat for breakfast, thinking about what to do for my day. And then my phone, popped up with the notification, with an email from PBS. And it said, "Congratulations, you are the winner of this year's juried prize for your documentary film." And I was just like so gooped, so shocked. Like I had just woken up and I was like, so it was a great way to start my day.
So, without meaning to spoil anyone, if you haven't seen the film yet, you can pause this or you can catch the live stream later and then watch it muna, come back to us. Walk me through the process. Like, how did the film first come into fruition, or like, was it a passing thought ever since, or was it something that you really planned even when you were much, much younger? Because you're young now.
Yeah, so so to start, so In This Family is my short personal documentary film about my own coming out experience, coming out as a young teenager in the Philippines to my very conservative Catholic Filipino family. And just, a retrospective look of how much they've changed and how much they've grown over the course of a decade. And the concept for In This Family really started because when I was a kid, my parents were very homophobic, and they would yell at me like all the time. They would yell at me, just give me sermons and like lots of really horrible things. They would say a lot of horrible things on a regular basis. And I think that was around the time, I think I was like 12 or 13. That was around the time when I got my first iPhone, and people were recording everything because that was the birth of social media in 2007. So I thought, why not? I think it would be fun to slip my phone in my pocket and just record randomly them yelling at me. Because, one of these days I'm going to look back at these recordings and, gain something meaningful out of it. I had no intention back then to make some kind of documentary about it. It was literally just for my own memories that I was going to keep in my hard drive. So that was 2007. Fast forward to 2017, 10 years after me coming out, it just made so much sense to make this documentary and to, just do a flashback about how much my parents and my own family has grown in learning acceptance and all of those things. And it all started with me remembering that I had those recordings in my hard drive. And just grew from there. So to the people who are going to watch the documentary, you are going to hear raw audio recordings of my parents yelling at me as a young kid. Those are not actors. A lot of people think that those are actors, but no, those are real recordings.
Right. How did it feel to go back and listen to those, especially to that particular recording that you put in the documentary? Like, I mean, ikaw na nag-mention, like a very conservative Filipino family. A lot of Filipinos would think, like, just keep it in the family, parang wag nating ilabas to or whatever. Like, how did it feel re-listening to that recording? Kasi I guess you kind of forgot about it for a while. That it even
existed. Absolutely. I have not listened to those recordings in years. Like in the course of 10 years, maybe I've only listened to those, I want to say twice or, thrice max. And so listening to those recordings again was really chilling. Like it it was so weird hearing, my dad's voice yelling at me, my mom's voice, defending me, but also siding with my dad. And even my own voice, like at the age of probably like early teenage years, 12, 13, I would, spit out things like, I just want to be myself, I don't want to follow norms. And it was so cringy hearing that. But at the same time, I was kind of right back then. Like I always, downplay my gay pride when I was a young teenager. But, re-listening to those recordings back then, I realized that, hey, maybe a part of me was right all along. And, I'm glad that I stuck to those opinions, even through, the past few years. And so, just listening to those recordings was very chilling. It was very weird and yet, still very real as well.
Was it like an out-of-body experience? Kasi parang, it's like, because you're involved, obviously. Pero parang, when you put it in a film, it's almost as if you're letting it go and sharing it with other people, right? So, diba?
Yes, it was definitely like an out-of-body experience, but at the same time, it was also, it really put me in that exact same time when they were yelling me. Like, I remember the sensory details. I remember what was on the TV playing. I remember what time of day it was. I remember that I was sitting on the wooden floor. I kind of remember what I was wearing. I remember where my parents were sitting and all of that. And just hearing those recordings, brought back all of these sensory details of that very event.
Okay, I have to admit, when I watched your film, I messaged a friend. Because I was crying for, I think, the whole duration of the film. I was bawling. And I think it took me mga 10 more minutes to just get over the emotions that I felt. And parang, how did your family react also? Or what was the process of you telling them, Sir, that I want to do this? And I want to include these recordings. Because again, it puts not just you, but your parents and your family in a very vulnerable place, right?
Absolutely. I was so scared to put this out there because, as you said, it brings out the skeletons in the closet of my family. My mom, I love your mom, but she's a very narcissistic person. She was just happy to be in the documentary and happy to be in the film. The interesting one was my yeah. Oh my God. But the interesting one was my dad. So I remember, releasing the trailers for the first time for this documentary on social media. And, I'm Facebook friends with family and friends and all of that. And, I had to tell my dad, this trailer is going to include snippets of that recording when you were yelling at me. People are going to think you're a horrible dad. People are going to think you're a bad person. But once they actually watch this, they're going to realize how much you've grown through the years. And honestly, like for the most part, even for all of the part, the reception of my parents has been really good. Like so many people have told me how much they love my dad and my mom. And there has been no negative feedback about my parents, which is good.
Right.
So I'm just, happy. I was so scared at first, but I feel like it was so worth it.
I think that was one of the lines that really broke talaga, no? It really broke me. But I think when you were telling the camera that it parang the feeling of watching your parents grow up before your very eyes. Kasi diba parang, again, if you haven't watched the film, ano ba? Just watch it na now. You can just watch it and watch it. It's around 12 minutes. Sobrang sulit yung oras mo. But like, syempre, it's 12 minutes. You don't really show it's impossible to talagang illustrate everything that happened. But like, could you just give us like a little snippet lang of what that was like? Kasi parang, ayun nga, parang the discussion now, like a lot of conservative Filipino families are like, either they're still stuck and they still can't accept their family members who are part of the LGBTQ community. Parang, ano yung journey for your family? Like, just, diba? Parang, because I think, sorry, to digress, I think a lot of people kasi are quick to dismiss people who are still learning.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think that was the most eye-opening part of your documentary na kayang matuto ng mga matatanda sa Pilipinas na baka madaling i-dismiss natin na parang, ay nako, homophobic yan at forever magiging homophobic yan. Parang, so, sorry, ang haba ng tanong ko. But like, walk us through that journey of like, your parents becoming better parents at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, when I was a kid and when we were all kids, we put our parents in such a platform and at such a high standard. Like we think as little kids that our parents know everything and that they're the source of everything and that, they are all intelligent and all of that. And only in my adulthood did I realize that my parents were really learning and growing as they were raising us kids. In the sake of my in the case of my family, my mom had my older sister when she was 24. I'm 25 right now. I can't even imagine having a 1-year-old at this age. And so that really, reminded me of how much they were really growing, even in their 30s, even in their 40s. They're learning so much. Society is changing, and the traditions that they had grown up with aren't applicable anymore. And, they're just learning that they just have to let go of certain things. And so that was really important for me to just, be patient with them and realize that it's going to hurt at first. It's going to be so uncomfortable at first dealing with growth and change, but they are humans as well who need to learn things and who need to catch up with the times. And so just, seeing them grow is a wonderful experience, seeing them learn things and seeing them admit that they were wrong. Oh my God, how many, Filipino children specifically can say that their parents have apologized to them and have admit their faults?
How did your parents, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I really wish a lot of, Filipino parents would do that to their children, normalize, apologizing.
Right. How did they react when they listened to those recordings from so many years back?
I was actually not in the same room when they watched it the first time.
God. Okay.
But all I know is that, every time I call them now, every time I FaceTime with them or whatever, they're always asking me like, are you secretly recording me right now? And you're going to record me and make sure I look good. So, and then I tell them, no, I'm not recording you.
Fair concern on your mom's part. I would assume that was your mom.
Yeah, my mom and my dad, even my dad. Oh my God. So they, have been so much better through the years.
So what was the reception in the Philippines? Because not many people might realize you're based in LA now. You made the film while in LA, but it's set in the Philippines, and that the events that transpired 10 years ago happened in Manila. So ano yung reaction ng Filipinos?
Yeah, the reaction has been really, really interesting. Honestly, this pandemic was kind of a blessing in disguise because a lot of the screenings that I've been doing have been in, physical theaters and in physical film festivals. And because the world has pretty much shut down, these screenings have gone online. And because In This Family was available online, people in the Philippines also were able to see the documentary, which I'm very, very happy for. And the most interesting reception that I got were from students and teachers of the same school that I went to. And I find this really, really interesting because, a bunch of current, I believe, junior high school or high school students messaged me on social media, saying, thank you so much for making this film. It truly, truly means a lot. I went to the same school that you went to, and I am still experiencing a lot of homophobia from the faculty. And it's so nice that they were able to see this film and we got talking. And then, somewhere along the conversation, I asked them, if you don't mind telling me, who are the teachers who have been homophobic to you? And then they started saying names, and the names of teachers that they said were the same names of teachers who were homophobic to me and my friends 10 years ago. And I was just so surprised and so amazed by that because these homophobic teachers are still employed, and they could honestly traumatize another generation of young gay students. And so that really worries me. That really worries me that they have not turned around. If they're still teaching in that school, that's great. But the fact that they are still homophobic. And the fact that these current students are reaching out to me on the other side of the world crying for help is, I think, a really important thing to focus on. Another interesting thing is that a teacher from that same school actually reached out to me. It was one teacher at first, and she said, congratulations on making the film. I really, really loved it. And I said to her, thank you. And then we got to talking, and I said, I have to be honest with you. Current students from that same school have reached out to me saying that the same teachers have been homophobic to them, the same teachers who were homophobic to me and my friends 10 years ago. And the teacher said, we know, and unfortunately that is an issue here. And this teacher, she shared the film to other faculty members, and they were reaching out to me too. But yeah, it's so important to me that these students and these teachers are seeing this film just so that they could look into their own, systems in their faculty and into the systems in their own school and see what needs to be changed. I have gone through a lot of amazing things in my life. I have gone, I received this award from PBS. I received an award from BAFTA. I was fortunate enough to be in a music video with Bibi Zahara Benet, who was the winner of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 1. And in all of the queer film festivals that I go to, and then meeting all of these huge queer people, I bring with me the trauma that these teachers have caused. And it's just so, scary to me that it's almost like a factory of queer boys being traumatized again and again, year after year, year after year. And I just don't want them to be like me right now, 25 years old, 10 years after, graduating from high school or whatever, and still carrying the trauma from those same teachers as I go about my life. So yeah, the reception from students and teachers has been really eye-opening and interesting, and it just reinforces the fact that more people in the Philippines need to see this documentary film.
Right. I think it's amazing, and I don't think you intended for it to be. I mean, it sparks a conversation, but hopefully it goes beyond conversation and into
Absolutely.
actual change in
Absolutely.
personnel or change in mindset, hopefully.
Yeah, and change in structures. Like, honestly, I don't want to be harsh, but I'm going to be harsh. If you need to fire people, fire people.
There's a lot of talk now, and rightfully so, about representation. Okay, you're queer man, Filipino man living in the US. What does representation mean for you?
It truly, truly, truly does mean a lot. I never realized my person of colorness until I moved here to America. The Philippines is a very homogenous country. Like, we don't have that much diversity in, skin color, races, whatever, sexuality, whatever. And when I moved here, just the feeling of walking down the street or going to a party and being one of a handful of people of color and the rest being white people is a very chilling feeling. And you look up these companies, these entertainment companies that you want to join, the producers in these television shows and films that you love, and you realize, oh my God, they're all white people, most of them straight. And so you really, really question, like, is there even space for me as a person of color, as a gay person, as an international student? Mm-hmm. And it's so important to put your stories out there. And, that I think is the power of a personal documentary film. Because, so many people question the fact, why would you make a personal documentary film? Like, that's narcissistic. No one needs to hear your own story. That's all like the Instagram, YouTube generation of vloggers and all of that. And then I realized, especially talking with a bunch of my other POC filmmaker friends, I realized that comment of personal documentaries being unnecessary usually comes from straight white people. people who are already used to hearing their own stories represented in entertainment. And so for people like me, as a queer international student, person of color, it's almost a necessity to turn the camera on myself and tell my own story, because no one else is going to tell that story in the right way. We've seen white people do documentaries on Filipinos, and it's just another exotic documentary. It's another poverty porn documentary. And we have so much more than that. And we need to be telling those stories.
And I think obviously it's about you taking space. Like, diba, parang making space for, if there's no space, you make space for yourself. And then,
absolutely.
But
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I want to talk about also your journey, your filmmaker journey. You moved to the US after college in the Philippines. What was that like? I mean, aside from the sheer shock of not seeing yourself in the companies that you were applying for, and the work that you wanted to do. Diba? Parang, I think a lot of people kasi, maybe a lot of people might glamorize it na parang, oh my God, nanalo na siya, okay na siya. Pero, like, what was it really like behind the scenes, leading up to in this family, you know?
Absolutely. You know, when I was living in the Philippines, I thought my family was doing well, financially and all of those things. And then when I moved here, you know, just the cost of living, just the cost of paying for tuition and your groceries is a lot of money. It took a village to send me here.
Right.
My parents stretched a lot of things financially. My sibling, my sister, even my extended family stretched a lot of things financially just to send one person from their own family here. There were, in my first year here in America, I was eating celery, hot sauce, and carrots. Honestly, like that's just how much, you know, financially draining it is to take a master's degree in another country. And you know, when you're granted a student visa, I knew I was only going to be here for 3 years. And after those 3 years, either I go back home to the Philippines or, you know, bulk up my achievements, awards, resume, whatever you call it, so that I could qualify for an artist visa. And so I knew I had to make those 3 years count, because no way do I want to go back to the entertainment industry in the Philippines. Like, as a documentary filmmaker, the kind of documentaries that I want to make are more like the entertainment personal kind of documentaries, and the nonfiction career that I would have in the Philippines is more of journalism, which isn't bad, but it's just not me.
Yeah.
And so I knew I wanted to make it count here, and I wanted to make those 3 years count. And so, you know, adjusting a lot of things was really, really hard, but it was so worth it. I remember, this is gonna sound so cheesy, but I remember when I went to my visa appointment for my student visa, when I was still in Manila. I think the U.S. the U.S. Embassy is right beside Manila Bay, if I recall correctly. And I remember, so I had gone to my appointment, and the person in charge was like, congratulations, you know, we're gonna process your visa, you are accepted, blah, 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 blah. And I was really happy. And then, you know, walking out of the embassy, you get a view of Manila Bay. And I remember looking out into the view. This is gonna sound so cheesy, oh my God. But I remember looking into the view, feeling my Moana moment, and thinking to myself, that horizon of water, I am gonna travel farther than that horizon. And, you know, I sit before you right now, 3 years after, feeling like I genuinely did, you know, go as far as I could. And I'm so excited for where it could go.
So you're working toward, you are a filmmaker, and you're working towards your other goals pa at a time, at least in the Philippines especially, where, you know, you mentioned this in your Facebook post, ABSCBN, the franchise was denied. There are threats to freedom of speech in the Philippines. So as a filmmaker, why is it important for you to make documentaries? In essence, why is it important Why is storytelling important for you?
Absolutely. It's just sharing your truth, sharing the things you've gone in your life, the intersectionality of all the problems that you've gone through in your life, and sharing it from your own perspective, because you are the only person who can probably tell that story the best. And it's so interesting that you bring up the whole, ABS-CBN Philippine politics situation, because I can't speak for what it's like being a filmmaker currently living in the US, in the Philippines right now. But what I can say, as an international Filipino filmmaker, is that we cannot deny that ABS-CBN was one of the companies that brought Filipino representation internationally. They had a huge platform and all of that. And so when we cut things like ABS-CBN, what that does internationally is that it reduces the kind of representation that we have. When we cut things like ABS-CBN, the stakeholders of Filipino representation are honestly going to be white people. Like, do we really, really want the stakeholders of our representation to be white people again? I find that really, really sad. And so that is why I think ABS-CBN is so important. That is why I think making documentaries and telling your own real stories is super important, because, there's so many things about real life that needs to be shared.
Right. What's next for you?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so let's talk about my two documentary films. The first one being In This Family, which is what we're talking about. In This Family, part of the PBS Short Film Festival is that I have a 3-year licensing contract with PBS. Okay. So we get to see the film in streaming platforms of PBS, on TV, hopefully. Those conversations, I'm so excited for those conversations to, get the film out there. And then my other documentary is called I'm Okay and Neither Are You, which is another personal documentary on my own journey with sexual assault trauma and how my mental health affected the mental health of my partner. And that I'm really, really excited about, because literally just a few days ago, I've been doing online screenings and all of that, but a few days ago, I received another email. I can't say that many details yet, but I received another email, and the film will be available again for another month online. It is going to be hosted by a really good film festival based here in Los Angeles. It's an Academy Award qualifying film festival, and I'm just super excited. Yeah.
Okay, last na lang na question. It might be a little cheesy, but why do you do what you do?
Oh my God, why do I do what you do? I don't know. It just is. It's just the form of communication that makes the most sense to me. I am not a dancer. I'm not a singer. I'm not a painter or a poet or whatever. But capturing real life and telling real stories and bearing my soul and being vulnerable is just how I communicate with people. So that's what made sense to me. And that's what I do.
So that has been a Rappler Talk with Drama del Rosario. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't seen In This Family yet, you can watch it online. For more information, you can visit Drama's website, dramadelrosario.com. Follow Rappler for more interviews with newsmakers in the news, entertainment, lifestyle, sports, tech, everything in between. You can also catch Rappler's podcasts. We're on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, everywhere else you can get podcasts. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you the next time. Bye!